this dog died in a really horrific and painful way. It was whimpering the whole time and crying out. And there were kids sitting there, you know, it was right in front of the door.
Kelly McKay says as she came out of Leaf and Bean coffee shop in downtown Newnan on Tuesday, she and others spotted a dog on the sidewalk struggling to breathe.
There was bags of ice on it, and they were trying to cool it off with water. And the dog was not responding to it.
As several helping hands pulled the dog into the shade, McKay says her friend called 911 and the dog's owner sat inside the coffee shop. The dog died before officers showed up minutes later.
At the point where we all saw the dog, it had already been so overheated that it would have taken drastic measures. She probably wouldn't have needed an IV and, you know, like real medical attention.
A Newnan Police report describes an officer going inside the coffee shop and finding Jon Schuck, the dog's owner. Witnesses told police Schuck tied the dog up outside, and when told the dog couldn't breathe, he shrugged. Schuck then walked outside, put a newspaper under the dog's head, and went back inside. When an officer asked Schuck why he stayed inside as the dog died outside, he could not provide a legitimate reason. But he said the dog first collapsed outside a restaurant across the street. Police then arrested the 70-year-old man. He attempted to resist, according to the report, and said, quote, "I am not going to jail."
The dog wasn't the only one neglected in this situation. I think he also was too.
McKay says Schuck seemed to be in distress and questions if he needs help himself. Newnan residents who say they know Schuck personally but did not want to talk on camera described the man living alone, needing help with basic necessities like water, and said he did not appear capable of taking care of a dog. Tonight, McKay is left with the image of the dog on the sidewalk.
People saw that, kids saw that, and I don't think that that's something that you take that home with you. You know, you walk away and that's still with you. And I haven't stopped thinking about it personally. It's been like 3 days.
Yeah.
And Cheryl, tonight the dog owner charged with animal cruelty. Police not able to say if he'll face any additional charges. They're still waiting for a veterinarian to determine the exact cause of death in this case.
This is not a case where someone saw something and just didn't pay attention to it.
Several people stepped up.
People called and animal control was trying to help.
They were actively out searching for this dog and his owner already because of previous calls earlier in the day. We'll look at that specifically coming up at 6 p.m.
All right, Joe, see you then. Thanks.